In my previous lecture on strep pneumoniae, I discussed the morphological features, clinical manifestations, pathogenesis, and the virulent factors associated with this bacteria. Today, I'm going to move on to its diagnosis, and before that, we will just go through the morphological features once again. I told you in my previous lecture that they are alpha hemolytic streptococci. Now, alpha hemolytic streptococci, because of and they are going to produce greenish discoloration due to incomplete hemolysis of RBCs. And if you look at this, the other part of the slide, you will see its shape. They are lancet shape, pointed at one end and rounded at the other. They are arranged as diplococci. You can see these diplococci on the slide, or they can be in short chains. You can even make out the capsule around there, which is an unstained area around these organisms, and they are non-motile and they are non-sporing. Now, moving on to the lab diagnosis. For lab diagnosis, you need to do a direct examination of the specimen, which could be sputum, CSF, whatever. And on gram staining, you are going to see the typical morphology which I have been talking about. They are diplococci, lancet shape, or they would be in short chains. And this is going to give us the presumptive diagnosis of strep pneumoniae. Then you're going to put up the culture on blood and chocolate agar, and you will see these typical alpha hemolytic colonies. Day two, once you get these colonies, you will be performing a bench test, which is biosolubility test, and you will be doing optetin sensitivity test. And for capsule, you will be performing quelling reaction. So I'm going to discuss all of this in detail in the next slides. Coming to the laboratory diagnosis, day one, where you get the specimen in the laboratory. Now, when you get the specimen, it could be, if it is pneumonia, then you will get sputum. If it is meningitis, you will be getting CSF, or it is septicemia, you can take blood samples. You do the morphology on the specimen, and on gram staining, you will see typical gram positive diplococci, which are lancet shaped and they are capsulated. At the same time, you're going to put up the cultures and you use blood agar plus chocolate agar. What is chocolate agar? Now, chocolate agar is heated blood agar. You heat the blood at 70 degrees centigrade till it becomes chocolate in color, and this is because the RBCs ruptures and they give you this brown color. This is enriched media for strep pneumoniae. After inoculation, you're going to put the plates in the incubator at 35 to 37 degrees centigrade, and you require 5 to 10% carbon dioxide for their growth. And you're going to keep the plates for 18 to 24 hours. On the same day, you can look for the capsule, which is polysaccharide in nature, and on basis of this capsule, I told you that 85 serotypes have been identified. Now, for the capsule, you're going to perform quelling reaction, and in this quelling reaction, you use polyvalent antisera. You take the specimen, whether it is sputum or CSF, on a slide. This will contain the capsular antigens. Plus, you're going to put a drop of capsular antisera, which is polyvalent. It will have different serotypes, antibodies in it. So, this is capsular antisera. You put a drop on the slide, and at the same time, you're going to put a drop of methicillin blue or any stain on the side. You mix all this up, and then you're going to look under the microscope for swelling of the capsule. And if the capsule becomes visible properly, as you can see over here, a well-defined capsule is seen in around the strep pneumoniae. This indicates the positive quelling reaction and the capsule is there. Now, there is actually actual swelling of the capsule is not there. Because of antigen antibody reaction, the capsular antigen gets attached to the capsular antibodies, and it is going to change the refractive index, which gives this appearance of swelling. So this is one of your examination question. Is there an actual swelling of the capsule? The answer is no. It is only because the antigen antibody complex settle down on the cell wall of this organism. It changes the refractive index and the capsule appears swollen. So this is quelling reaction, which is positive for all capsulated organisms. And in this case, pneumococci has a well-defined polysaccharide capsule, and that is why this quelling reaction is going to be positive. We can also perform Indian ink technique test, where you're going to put a drop of Indian ink on the specimen and you're going to see a picture like this. Again, the capsule would be well defined. It does not take up the stain. It remains as a colorless halo around these diplococci, and the rest of the slide becomes black in color. Once you get the colonies, that is day 2, you're going to interpret the colonies, and on blood agar, after 24 hours, if the culture is inoculated or incubated aerobically, you're going to see alpha hemolytic colonies. And these alpha hemolytic colonies, I've been telling you again and again, that these colonies are because of breakdown of RBCs, and secondly, this organism is producing hydrogen peroxide. The hydrogen peroxide which it produces is going to break down hemoglobin into biliverdin, and you get this greenish discoloration. The young colonies after 24 hours are small, smooth, transparent, and they are low convex. But if you keep the plate in the incubator for 48 hours, the colonies become depressed in the center and they give an appearance of draftment. So these are known as draftment colonies, and it is because the amidase enzyme which it is producing it's an autolytic enzyme which starts eating up the colonies from the center. The center become depressed, whereas the rim remains elevated. So this is known as draftment colonies. You get an MCQ on draftment colonies because it is specific for strep pneumoniae. If you keep this plate, the blood agar plate is kept anaerobically, then you're going to see beta hemolysis on blood agar around these colonies, and this is because of production of pnemolysin. Pnemolysin is going to give you beta hemolysis on blood agar when the cultures are incubated anaerobically. Next is chocolate agar. Chocolate agar is enriched media for this organism, and on chocolate agar you're going to see again alpha hemolytic colonies. Typical alpha hemolytic colonies would be seen, and which is because of incomplete hemolysis of these RBCs. Now, this plate is another chocolate agar plate where the colonies are non-hemolytic. So there is no greenish discoloration around the colonies, which are specific for strep pneumoniae, and as you can see over here. After interpretation of the colonial characteristics, we are going to perform bench test and biochemical test on the colonies which we have isolated. First is catalase test and oxidase test. These are the two bench tests which are going to be negative for strep pneumoniae. Catalase test, we have already done this while we were doing Staph aureus. In this case, you're going to take hydrogen peroxide in a test tube, take well isolated colonies of strep pneumoniae, inoculate it there. Because this organism is not producing catalase, so it is not going to break down hydrogen peroxide and you won't see the bubbling. So this is a negative test which is seen with strep pneumoniae. Similarly, strep pneumoniae is oxidase negative, as a result of which you are not going to see any color once you smudge these colonies on the oxidase reagent. I'm not going to go into details because you have already done this previously. Now, the two very important diagnostic tests for this organism are optogen test and bile solubility test. Both these tests are positive for strep pneumoniae, and it helps us in differentiating it from strep viridans, which is also alpha hemolytic in nature. Coming to the optogen sensitivity test. The optogen sensitivity test is performed. Basically it's an identification test. So when you get alpha hemolytic colonies on primary isolation, you're going to pick up this alpha hemolytic colony and you are going to inoculate it on blood agar plate. These are alpha hemolytic colonies. We are not sure whether it is strep viridans or it is strep pneumoniae. So you inoculate it on the blood agar plate, and in the center of the inoculum, you're going to put this identification disc objective. We have already talked about another identification disc while we were doing Strep pyogenes or group A streptococci, which was bacitracin disc. So with group A streptococci, we are using bacitracin disc, and for strep pneumoniae, we are using Optochin disc. After incubation, you're going to see a wide zone of inhibition around the disc in case of strep pneumoniae. But if it is strep viridans, there is no zone of inhibition and the organisms can grow up to the disc margin. So this is a very important diagnostic test for strep pneumoniae, and it's a differential test because we are differentiating strep pneumoniae from strep viridans. Both are alpha hemolytic streptococci. Next, we can perform biosolubility test. Biosolubility test can be performed both by using tube method technique or by directly on the plate. Now, bile salts are basically sodium deoxycholate citrate, and these salts are going to break down. They have the ability to bring about lysis of strep pneumoniae. Now, for plate test, you just take a plate. You can see this is a chocolate agar or blood agar plate, which have these colonies of strep pneumoniae, and you can see the hemolysis around it. So you're going to put a few drops of 3% bile solution on pneumococcal colonies on blood or chocolate agar, and you're going to incubate it for a few minutes, and after which you're going to see that there is lysis of the colonies, and the colonies are dissolved by sodium deoxycholate. So this is a positive bile or solubility test which is done for strep pneumoniae. Again, strep pneumoniae will give you a positive biosolubility test, whereas viridans are going to give you a negative test. This is another slide showing you the same reaction. You can see these colonies, intact colonies on the plate, but when you put bile solution on it, if it is strep pneumoniae, the colonies disintegrate, and if they are strep viridans, then the colonies remain intact. For tube test, you're going to take overnight broth culture of strep pneumoniae. You have inoculated strep pneumoniae in this broth, and then it is a glucose broth, and you keep it in the incubator for overnight or for like 18 hours, and then you're going to add a few drops of 10% bile solution to it. If there is clearing of this turbid broth, that means that the bacteria has undergone lysis and it is strep pneumoniae, as you see over here. On this slide, you can see clearing of the broth, and this is the turbid broth. So if it clears, then it is strep pneumoniae because the bile solution is going to bring about lysis of the bacteria. On the other hand, if it remains turbid even after addition of bile solution, then it is strep viridans. So as I said, these two tests, biosolubility test and Optochin test, they are two tests which are diagnostic for strep pneumoniae. You get MCQs on this, and when you get a question SEQ on lab diagnosis, you have to mention these two tests. So how will you differentiate between strep pneumoniae and strep viridans? This is one of your very important Viva questions. You can also get OSPE question on this. The most important is the presence of capsule with pneumonia. So the quelling reaction would be positive, whereas with viridans it is negative. The colonies are typical draftman colonies after 48 hours because of amidase, and it is seen in strep pneumoniae, but viridans do not show draftman colonies. Now the two important tests are the Optochin sensitivity test and bile solubility, which is a characteristic feature of strep pneumoniae and not seen with viridans. McConkey agar will not grow pneumonia, but you can grow strep, or you can isolate strep viridans on on McConkey agar. Plus, they will also grow in the presence of 6.5% sodium chloride. Virulence in mice is a typical feature of strep pneumoniae, and it is not seen with strep viridans. So, with this, I am done with pneumococci. And now I'm going to show you another slide of enterococci, which is group D streptococci. The importance of these streptococci is basically related to the infections which they are going to produce. Enterococci can be like Faecalis or Faecium, which are going to grow in the presence of bile and 6.5% sodium chloride, but they are resistant to penicillin, which is something important. Then we have non-enterococci like Bovis, which is inhibited by 6.5% sodium chloride, but it is sensitive to penicillin, which is something important. These enterococci, because they are present in the intestines, they can grow in the presence of bile. Now, the clinical manifestations are important. You get an MCQ on bovis, which has been associated with carcinoma of the colon. However, patients who have been catheterized, they develop urinary tract infection, and you are able to isolate these enterococci. Similarly, enterococci after GIT surgery or urinary tract surgery or instrumentation can lead to endocarditis, and they are also responsible for intra-abdominal or pelvic abscesses. Now, I'm going to summarize now the gram-positive cocci, which we have discussed in detail in the previous few lectures. This slide is very important because you get not only MCQs from this, you are also going to see auspices based on this slide, and you're asked about it as your part of your table viva. Now, all the gram-positive cocci, once you get these gram-positive cocci, isolate them in the laboratory, the first thing you're going to do is perform a catalase test. Now, catalase test is one of your MCQ because it is going to differentiate between staphylococci and streptococci. Both staph and streptococci are gram-positive cocci. Now, if they are catalase positive, they are staphylococci, and if they are catalase negative, they are streptococci. Staph means clusters. On gram staining, they are going to show you grape-like clusters, and Strept means pairs or chains, and streptococci on gram staining are going to give you chains, small chains, or they may be in pairs. Coming to staphylococci, in order to differentiate between different species of staphylococci, you're going to perform another very important test which constitutes your MCQ, and that is coagulase test. If staphylococci are coagulase positive, they are Staph aureus. If they are coagulase negative, they can be epidermidis or saprophyticus. Then there are other tests performed in the laboratory which are very important for you people, and that helps in differentiating between Staph aureus, which is coagulase positive, and coagulase negative staph like epidermidis and saprophyticus. Number one, on blood agar, Staph aureus give you beta hemolysis. They are golden colored, and they are going to ferment mannitol. Epidermidis, on the other hand, on blood agar, they are non-hemolytic and they are white in color, plus they do not ferment mannitol. So you need to know this picture. You have to keep it in your mind before you go for your exam, because this is going to constitute your MCQs plus your SCQ. Now, talking about catalase negative gram-positive cocci, which are streptococci. Now, the streptococci have been classified on the basis of their hemolysis. They can be beta hemolytic, alpha hemolytic, or non-hemolytic. If they are beta hemolytic and they are vocitracin sensitive, which I've told you is an identification test for strep pyogenes, then we label this organism as group A streptococci or S strep pyogenes. If they are beta hemolytic but they are not sensitive to bacitracin, or they are bacitracin negative, but they produce CAMP test, they are CAMP positive and they are hippurate positive, then they belong to the family of group B and they are A-galacti. I've done this in detail while we were doing streptococci. So this is just to sum up all the tests which we have to perform for identification of specific group of gram-positive bacteria. If they are alpha hemolytic, which we have just discussed in detail, and they are optogen sensitive and bile soluble, then they are strep pneumoniae. If they are optogen negative and bile soluble, not bile soluble, then they are strep viridans. Coming to the non-hemolytic streptococci, if they are bile esculin positive and they grow in the presence of 6.5% sodium chloride and they are resistant to penicillin, they are enterococci. If they are if they don't grow in the presence of 6.5% sodium chloride and they are sensitive to penicillin, then they belong to the non-enterococcus group D. So please go through this slide before you come for the exam. Try to remember the salient features which I have just discussed, and you will be able to then answer the questions or the MCQs or the SCQs. Coming to the assignment, you have to attempt all the MCQs before you mark your attendance. What you people do is the moment we upload the lecture, you start marking yourself present. We are not going to look at that attendance. Your attendance will only be marked if you have answered all the 5 MCQs which I have given as assignment in this case. So the first question is about C-reactive proteins. What is it? An antibiotic, beta globulin derived from pus cells or whatever? So please answer this question. This is one of your important table viva question as well. Second question is the antibody that may develop after an episode of pneumococcal pneumonia may not protect you from subsequent pneumococcal diseases. Why? Go through all the options and please come up with the right option. Pneumococci can be differentiated from Strep viridans on the basis of which of the following characteristics? Quelling reaction is associated with what? Capsule degeneration or whatever is given in the options. Go through them and then come up with the correct answer. Fifth MCQ is about a child who has been suffering from otitis media, and the air discharge reveals gram-positive diplococci which are catalase negative. Which of the following is responsible for this condition? So I hope you have understood gram-positive cocci. You are going to get in your final exams as well as in your send-up, you will get a question on gram-positive cocci. So you please go through this properly. If you have any queries, just call me or write it down on the group and I'll be able to answer all your questions. Thank you.